So in my last speakdom, I got a comment from somebody named King Habs 14, and he wrote, "Can you make a speakdom video about your degree, your experience in college? By the way, I enjoyed this video." Well, thank you on that. And then somebody replied back. Michael De La Rosa says, "I just started college, and I'm wondering if it's even worth it." So those are actually two different topics. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna first talk about if college is worth it. 'Cause the reason why I want to talk about that first, and no disrespect to you, King Habs, at all, I am going to get to your topic about my experience in college, probably in a separate video, but this is actually a topic that's come up a lot and has been asked to me by several young people, and I've seen it come up in discussions with other families and my friends that have like younger siblings and my friends that have kids even, and that's, is it worth going to college? Is it really worth it? I want to discuss that first, okay? Like I said, King Habs, I will get to your topic in the future, but I got to get this out of the way. So, I want to talk about, is college worth it, okay? Now, this is a complicated question that cannot be answered with a yes or a no. And I'm telling you straight up facts on this one, okay? It cannot be answered with a simple yes or a no. See, it entirely depends on various factors. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is that, and I've discussed this, at length with Sean Schemmel and other people who are in like the industry of like entertainment, because we've discussed, because they all kind of grew up, with kind of like us, with the idea that you have to go to college. And one thing that I'm all about, that I've always been about, is that I believe that every person should carve their own path in life. Not everybody's going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Not everyone's going to be a surgeon. Not everyone's going to be a pilot. Not everyone's going to be a firefighter. Everyone has to carve their own path in life. And what you have to do is you have to really, if you're out there and you're wondering if college is worth it, you have to think about what you're going to college for, first and foremost. See, the reality is that a lot of companies now, a lot of them that are offering good salaries, are requiring students to have at least an associate's degree. Hirees, I'm sorry, not students, hirees. I worked for a company that there was two sides to the company, and one side I managed to get in because of my experience. Experience, I think, is one of the most important things, maybe more than even a degree. In fact, in IT, it certainly is. But when it comes to the other side of the company, the other, subsection of the company, they were not hiring you at all if you didn't have a degree. And I think the reason is because they feel like, employers feel like if you can make it through college, you've shown discipline and you've shown that you can stick to something, which sounds like a great concept, except that one of the issues going on now is how expensive tuition is. Tuition is very expensive. And after I worked at McDonald's, I talked about this in my last video, I got a job working for a construction company. And then after that, I didn't work for a year. And then I got a job for a loan consolidation company. And let me tell you right now, student loans and interest and all that is very, very expensive. And you have to pay it. You have to pay it off. It's something that you can't just avoid doing. The reality is going to college, at least in the United States, is very expensive. If you get a Pell Grant, if you get to go in some other method, great. But most people have to pay. And the issue is, though, that there are so many other paths in life that you can take to where you can not have to go to college. It all depends on what you want to do. And what I also suggest doing is, depending on what your major is, I would look into what jobs are available and what the pay rates are for those jobs based on your experience and your degree. So, for example, if you want to get a history major, right, you better be ready, because most of the jobs you're going to get are probably teaching jobs, as a teacher. And if you want to be a teacher, great. If you don't want to be a teacher, you don't want to be around kids or students or whatever, get out. That's not what you're going to be doing for your life. Now, if you really love history and you're planning on, writing a book, a degree might help, but who said that you have to have a degree to write a book? See what I'm saying? It all depends on what you want to do. Now, one thing I will tell you is, as far as my experience goes, when I was younger, a lot of my friends went to college to get business degrees. And the whole thing about a business degree, right, is that if you get a business bachelor's, they thought you were going to end up like being a assistant manager at Microsoft or something crazy like that. And most of them wound up being managers at Walgreens and Walmart, which is not a terrible job, but it doesn't pay as well as like a manager for Microsoft. So just because you have a business degree does not mean that you're going to get hired by, some rich millionaire to run his company. And I think a lot of people are delusional when it comes to that. It doesn't work that way. A lot of that does have to do with connections. But that being said, when it comes to college, I think that yes, I think what you have to remember is whether you go to college, whether you go to tech school or to a vocational school or wherever you decide to go, art school, music school, there's so many different schools, even wrestling school. Hey, there's so many different schools out there for a specific kind of work that you at least get educated. That's the important thing. Get educated and try to be a jack of all trades, because the world changes at such a rapid pace nowadays, and there are so many new jobs popping up and so many old jobs becoming, I guess, archaic, obsolete, I guess is the right word to use, that you got to be a person who's willing to be flexible. When I used to work as a field technician, I was a field network engineer about 10 years ago. That job is no longer even a thing anymore, because what they've done is they've trained the cable guys to do that job, because what we used to do is install the internet and install the NIC cards and all that stuff. But computers nowadays all come with everything pre-installed. Drivers are pre-installed, NIC cards are pre-installed. You could even buy a router and install it yourself, boom, in 2 minutes with the free wizard. Back in those days, we used to have to do it for the customers. See, those jobs don't exist anymore. At least not, like, those kind of jobs exist, but in a very, very small level, usually in supervisor roles, because every person now doesn't need a tech to install the stuff on their computers. They already know how to do it themselves. The computers themselves. So, see what I'm saying? That happened. It's an IT job that became obsolete. Everyone will tell you, get into computers, you'll have a career. Well, you will if you keep learning and you keep growing, because let me tell you something. If you got into computers in like the early 2000s to be a bench technician, to work on a bench and doing just that, fixing computers on a bench, you ain't going to make more than $14 an hour at best, because nobody's hiring for that anymore, because computers nowadays are so different and so easy to fix that there's no need to have bench techs. And there's a few jobs out there, but just not as many as there were back then. And that's an example of how the world sort of changes its needs, and how you have to be the kind of person to change your needs or change your experience or education when it comes to getting a job. So look into what you want to do. That's the first thing. Look into what you want to do and look at the different career paths you can take. If you want to be, a specific kind of musician, see if you can go to music school instead of going to just, college. Speak to somebody at the school, because they can usually give you better guidance, and don't just speak to that person. Look into careers in that field and how much they pay. If you can find a job, and I'm using this completely as an example, if you can find a job being like a violinist in an orchestra and they pay really well and it's something you love to do, and even if they don't pay that well, if they pay enough for you to pay your bills, if you're happy, the important thing is to be happy at what you do when it comes to your career, then take it. The main thing I want to stress to everyone is whether or not you go to college, try to find something that you love to do. It took me a long time to find that. Try to find something that you truly love to do and go for it. But, do a little research too, and think realistically here. Think realistically. Don't assume that if you're going to be a musician, don't assume you're going to end up getting a gig working for Marvel in one of their movies. That might not happen, but at least do... you got to work for it. You got to get your own gigs. Do the best you can to, educate yourself on what you could realistically do. You know what I mean? And if you do get it, great. And if you don't, that's okay too. But always go for it. Always go for it. So is college worth it? I would say it totally depends on your desires, I guess you could say. Your desires and what you want your career to be. And to do some homework and see if you personally need it. Me, I would say, if you were to ask me, is it better to go than not to go? I would say yes, it is better to go. Just be prepared to pay those student loans if you have to, and it is a pain, but it is worth going if it means you're going to get, a better career, and it's going to last you the rest of your life too. That degree will mean a lot. So remember that, your degree will last you. So again, do some homework on what you want to do, but always remember that it's never too late. If you decide to go to college and you're like 38 or like 42, don't be afraid to go back, because you can. When I was in college taking the engineering course, the guy there, I had a guy there who was like 55 years old, older guy, had a theology degree. Now, I love theology. I love studying theology to an extent. I don't love every piece of theology, but I do love the idea behind theology, and I love talking to theologists. But the reality is work is scarce when it comes to that field. So he said, I have to get my tech degree and get a better job. And he did. He was a smart dude, and he was 55. You would think that, he's going to retire soon, but no, not everybody retires at the same age, and yeah, that's an example right there. He got a degree. He likes what he does, but it just doesn't pay the bills for him, so he went back to college. And if you can afford it, you can afford it. And if you don't want to go to college, go to tech school. There's all kinds of options, alternatives to college, like vocational school, tech school, but the important thing is whatever you want to do, get educated, not just on that, but also on the real world and how it works, and I think you'll be fine. You'll have some scary moments, but I think you'll be okay. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I hope it helped, and I'll be working on another video about my college experience because it was requested originally in the future. But I'll talk to y'all soon, and I hope that this message found you well.